on this computer. Recording in progress. Okay, I think we're recording. I think we're good. So, hi Clay. Thank you for joining me today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Very excited.
I'm excited too. So for those of you that are tuning in right now, obviously my name is Caitlin. You know me from, my business handles, Hide and Seek Life. But I'm actually joined today by a fellow colleague, fellow coach, fellow heart-centered coach, Clay Neumeyer. But the reason he's joining me today is because not only is Clay a fellow coach, but Clay is also a fellow ADHD'r.
Yeah, thanks. I love your accent too, by the way you say that, fellow. I think that's the favorite word I've heard you say.
Really?
Yeah.
I haven't heard that before, but I appreciate it. I'm excited for this conversation, Clay. Just to kind of give anyone that's watching this a little bit of background. Clay and I we both kind of met because we're part of the same coaching program, CCI, and it's all heart-centered coaches. We connected through that, but we actually properly connected because we both realized that we had very similar, I don't want to say issues, but very, very similar, mindset development, whatever. We both
I think we were actually in, sorry to cut you off. We were actually in like a group coaching call, a weekly call. Yeah. And I had just spouted out a bunch of stuff. And then I said, please forgive me. I have undiagnosed ADHD. I don't know what happens here, but sometimes things come out. Sometimes they're smooth. Other times they loop around and you're surprised. And it's just a mess. So I apologize. And I saw you get excited.
Yeah, I was like, I just started waving.
I didn't realize at that time that this is what you do.
Yeah.
And so we connected shortly after that. And I was so excited. And I really enjoyed this because it's something that, I truly care about. It's impacted my life for better and worse, of course. And that's what we'll talk through some of that stuff today. But also because after we spoke, I realized that you experienced this too. And it was another way that I felt not alone. And so that gravity here is just, I don't know what's the word here. It's undeniable.
Yeah.
I've quite enjoyed our friendship to this point. Yeah. So thank you for having me.
No, of course. Thank you for saying that. I don't want to cry on camera, but I might, because what you've just described, that's exactly how I felt as well. Right. Especially as an adult with ADHD, whether or not it's undiagnosed or it's officially diagnosed, whatever. I think we've reached a point in the neurodiverse community where people are so accepting, right? Because there's so much more information about it now. But it's so lonely as an adult because there's so little resources, first of all. There's very little support. And if you don't meet a certain criteria, you don't really get the support. So just like seeing someone who not only experiences the same things, but I think for me, why I was so excited about meeting you was because you were also a fellow business owner. So meeting someone that was like, oh my God, this person has ADHD and they're a business owner just like me. It was so cool. It was like, it's like, I kind of liken it to, I live in Canada, but I'm from Scotland originally. And whenever I meet a Scottish person over here, I'm like, brotherhood. Yes.
It's one of my people.
Someone gets it.
I didn't mean to do this plug, but you said something important to me. And because we're in business and it is lonely sometimes, I mean, there's a lot of principles that work here, but this book right here is a business book called Who Not How.
Ooh.
I probably just blocked the mic and you probably couldn't hear that one.
I like that you had it ready to lift
I'm not even going to say you need to read it. The title says most of it. And I think it applies so deeply to people like us who are trying to do so much, right? You got this big picture.
Yeah. Oh
and I do everything in my power to get organized and write things down. And it's just 35 years of having this condition and trying to figure my way through the dark here, really, and trying to get that follow through right. But who, not how, is a big part of it because who is helping you, right? One of the more successful ventures was my second business that I had, where my wife and I worked together. And we would run large industrial projects. Sometimes crews would reach 100 people in size. So really large, there's a lot going on, but I'm that big picture person. I thrive in that environment. I would get in a safety meeting every morning and talk just like this for 20, 30 minutes. Guys wouldn't be sleeping. They'd be up and at it and ready to, attentive.
Yeah.
But I would lose them too at the same time. And I would come back full circle. And then boom, it's like a stand-up comedian on stage, but not always funny. Sometimes more puzzling than funny, but you came back around and it's like, and that's why this, and this. And they're like, holy crap, like what just happened? And I had a guy say to me, actually, you speak in riddles. And I was like, what? I've never heard that before.
What do you mean? This is just how I talk.
And that's what I'm doing right now. So I got to tie this back. Who, not how, because my wife is organized and she is detail oriented. And so as a construction management team, she would handle the little its and bits that I would miss on a daily. And so together, we worked together side by each for 4 years. And she hates when I say side by each. I don't know if that's actually correct. Some people said that.
No, I've never heard it before, but I kind of love it.
Side by side.
Yeah.
And I'm talking in an office sometimes 6 by 8, 2 full-size desks with office chairs and 4 computers and like really managing some big projects. I know I'm going on a tangent here. But if you can imagine working with your partner for 4 years, especially with a busy brain like us, most people, that's their number one question. How did you do it? And it's because of the who. It's because my wife is not me.
Yes.
One of the most attractive parts of my wife to me is that she isn't me.
Yeah.
That she was very organized. And much like, I don't know if you're familiar with Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends and Influence People.
Yeah.
Old book about just being nice and being forward with a smile on your face to attract people. My wife is that person. If we were dogs, my wife's like a lab or a golden retriever. She's just like, hi, nice to meet you. I'm Jody. What do you do? And I'm like, I'm going to wait and see what this person's doing for a while and judge them. Anyway, okay.
No, it's okay. I get what you're trying to say. I honestly, and I think this is why we got on so well, because I resonate to everything that you said. I feel like I'm very good at coming full circle in a conversation, but it's a very big circle, right? The circle is it's enormous. It's bigger than everyone. Yeah. Like if we were all stacked on top of each other. So, but I think the people in my life at this point are kind of used to it. So whenever I did come forward and be like, oh, by the way, I actually have ADHD, they were like, oh, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So it's like I'm sucking people into my like vibrating energy, but also like people are kind of like, my God, can we get to the point?
Is it appropriate if I write that down? I really enjoyed that. Sorry, I have a whiteboard beside me for a reason, collecting thoughts. This is like a dream.
And honestly, I love that. Every time I see your whiteboard, I'm like, I should absolutely get a whiteboard because I need it. Like I have like 1,000 different notebooks and I always lose them, but I feel like the whiteboard is the perfect thing because you can wipe it clean at the end of the day and it's gone. Your thoughts are gone.
That's a problem too, though. So I have an admission here. I have to admit that my notes are going crazy.
Yeah.
I use Microsoft. I'm a Windows user, so I use a Microsoft OneNote.
Yeah.
And it's just amazing for notes. So I've got currently probably 12 different notebooks in there, each with, let's say, an average 20 subjects with average 20 subtabs and subtabs to those. And they're not all very well organized.
No, they never are.
I need to dump I would say 3 or 4 times a day, I dump notes. And when I'm listening or I'm reading, I'm note taking so that I retain it, because otherwise it's just gone. It's just fluff and it was pointless.
Yeah.
And so this whiteboard circling back is like, I do exactly that. I'll fill this up every day and then I'll take a picture with my phone so I can delete it so that I have that storage. And then I'll take that from my phone and put it in my notebook. It's just like, it's out of control. I'm losing information and I don't mean out of my brain. I mean, I can't find it.
Yeah, because there's so much of it. That's like a day in my life, I feel like. So yeah, I mean, we've kind of touched on it, right? But I feel like we've done a good job of explaining the I guess the intricacies that go to being a business owner and also someone with ADHD, because it can be really difficult to stay on task, especially when you are a solopreneur, like someone that's just like by themselves kind of doing your own thing. So I guess I'm looking for your experience. Like you kind of talked about working with your wife, but what's your experience been like kind of by yourself trying to navigate not only having a business but everything else that kind of comes with that?
Yeah, you know what? It's kind of miserable. it's not my favorite part. The working alone part is it is treacherous. I hate it. And my wife's super busy, so she won't help me anymore.
Yeah. Wow.
Fortunately, because she's my favorite business partner, which is, marriage. Marriage is a priority too. So
Yeah.
we try and keep that going.
Yeah.
But no, the challenge is that through making all these lists, through knowing there's so much to do, because I keep tracking it and tracking it and tracking it, eventually it becomes insurmountable.
Mhm.
And you get lost in the fog of fog of war being the cliche to say here, but it's a battle every day trying to find what the next right thing to do is. And it doesn't make it easier that really there's this gray space around these conditions where it doesn't seem like it's even an easy diagnosis or anything that's easy to deal with. There's not really anyone outside of you, and this has just been a brief relationship so far, but there really hasn't been anyone I've connected with at this level with these conditions, because no one's out walking the streets talking about it.
No.
Everyone's just trying to deal, and you've got this blinders on, and it's just tunnel vision. And if anyone watching this, or yourself, Caitlin, I just about said my name with an L after the T, Caitlin. If anyone's feeling that, right, then you're also feeling, is it just me?
Yes. Is it
when
just
I meet
me?
someone, I'm worried, do they like me?
Yes.
What do they think of did they look at my fingers because I chewed my nails yesterday? All these things are like going on, right? And it just doesn't seem to ever, it's relentless. And I'm just puzzled by what they're thinking.
Yes. And I love, so when you said, is it just me? I feel like that, is it just me has been the theme of my entire adult life. Is it just me? Because I think when I was younger, I was so blissfully unaware of, well, I was unaware, but I assumed at one point that everyone's brain worked the same way that mine did. Right? I honestly thought that everyone struggled with math to the same extent that I did, even though I failed it 4 times. And on my 4th attempt was actually asked to leave my class, right? I thought that was normal. And suddenly I hit like my late teens and I start going, that's not normal. Like and I'm seeing everyone else thrive, and everyone else is kind of going off to do really great things, and they're doing it without having to do it 3, 4, 5, 6 times. They do it once. And so I've carried that, is it just me? Like a cloud my entire life, right? Because you are just like, you are walking down the street and going, is it just me? Why is it just me? Or is this person looking at me? And it's just, there's so much happening. There has never been a time in which I was able to shut my brain off. And for the longest time, I thought that is not a good thing. I'm able to see like the sort of positive of it. But every once in a while, man, I would just like it to shut up here. Like,
Totally. And I think of like one of the things that resonates with me and my mindset has been on it, to keep seeing it as a blessing and keep, taking away from the curse that is here. But I do believe, whether it's me or there's other people or whoever's experiencing this around, like I said, they're not out talking about it. It's not something you're just going to find printed on their t-shirt. But I do believe where you focus is where you go. And that's something I've come to learn. And I really take that back to the first time when I learned to snowboard. Right. Was a place where it really made a difference. And other sports, even driving, right? If you keep looking in the left lane while you're driving, you're going to eventually go left. You're not focused straight ahead. Yeah. And so where I'm going with that is with the snowboarding thing, because you're sliding on snow, it was like, okay, if I look at that tree, that obstacle, it becomes the way. There's actually a book on this that's really good by Ryan Holiday. The Obstacle is the Way. But
I honestly have no books. Like you're giving all these books, and I'm like, I don't have any books. Just me.
Yeah. When I was waiting for this call, I'm like, what else can I cram in these moments?
Starting a book club over here.
But where the point I was getting at is, I do believe that I've been chipping away at this obstacle. Right. And that obstacle is in my head. It's between my ears, right? And it's between your ears and anyone watching this. And I don't mean that as in it's not real. Yes. I mean that as in no one else can hear that. Another example, like I've got ear damage from industrial work and depth diving and things that happened in my life. So sometimes when I'm going to bed, I don't notice this, but other times when my brain's really busy, I can hear it ringing.
Yes.
Relentless. Yeah. It's just like, I'll spend 90 minutes sitting in bed, trying to be still, trying to fall asleep. And it's like an entire new business plan goes through. An entire day, a week is planned, all these things. So I'll try and finish this tangent up, but through awareness, I have a therapist, counselor that I see recurringly, because I believe that if I continue to chip away at this obstacle, that is the way. If I continue to focus on that direction, that growth, then I continue to understand and get better with it.
Yeah.
Anytime I've tried to just say, you know what, I'm just going to do it. I'm just going for this action. I'm just going to run a business and it'll be fine. I'm just going to start a new job. It doesn't work. It doesn't work well without that plan and that structure and that you just, it feels like you got to hit it head on. Maybe I'm off there.
No, like you're hitting the nail on the head there, because I think that one of the things, at least that I struggle with my ADHD, is how impulsive I am. I am so impulsive, but and sometimes it has served me very well. And other times it hasn't. The times that it has served me well was when I decided to just jump in a plane and move to Canada. I was like, I'm done, bye. And then just kind of left and moved. But I can be very impulsive, because sometimes whenever I get a sort of impulse to do something, it's like, I can't think about anything else. I have to do the thing. And that's something even as small as you were saying there, going to bed and all of a sudden you're planning a whole new business or your entire week or something. For me, whenever I'm in bed, that's when my brain works the most. I'm trying to get to sleep and I come up with all these great ideas. But when I'm lying there, I physically have to get up and do something, one imperfect step towards whatever it is that I'm sort of coming up with. Because if I don't, I will sit there and I will just stare at the ceiling and I will spin on this for 8 hours. Yeah. And then by the time I wake up, I am just exhausted. So I have to really learn when to be okay with being impulsive versus being not wary, but just a bit more cautious about what that impulsivity may actually mean. So I allow myself to be very impulsive, that I will get up at 4 o'clock in the morning and I'll start just writing a book that I will never publish. But I have to get it out of my head because it's so busy.
Totally. I just have to ask quick, are you hearing background noise from me at all?
No.
Okay. Because there's a storm going on and there's a door open and I can hear a bit of wind and rain. So just want to check.
No, you're okay.
Yeah. So sorry, on that topic. I also don't want to paint the picture that action is bad and that spontaneous action is bad, because I'm the same way, actually. One of the best freedoms, the most freeing time of my life was actually between 17 and 23, because my daughter was born when I was 23, and that stopped me from running around the countryside. And so during that period, I had a license and I had a little cheap car that I could drive around. And I was in construction. I was making decent money, so I could go job to job, town to town, and just do whatever I wanted. Yeah. So if I woke up one day, like you described, where you just grab a book and start reading, if I woke up and felt like, you know what, this isn't it for me, I would just pack my car and go.
Yeah. Yes.
It's something that I later missed because I lost that freedom of having a random thought followed by this spontaneous action. But I do want to highlight that the reason that I am where I am, the reason I'm able to dominate and have a business and do well and be, I don't want to sit here and brag, so I'll stop right there. No. But the reason is because of that spontaneous action, just the same. Yeah. So again, it's the blessing and the curse. There's a contrast. Yes. But while everyone else makes a plan, as soon as I'm done making a plan or close to done making it, I'm out the front door. Until I get discouraged. That's my problem. It's the discouragement. Yeah. But I swear I'm a third farther than everyone else. Yes. Stuck in the mud.
I honestly, all I have to do is think about a plan and I've already done the first 3 steps of it. And I honestly, And everyone, I remember growing up, my mom's catchphrase for me growing up was, "What are you like?" Because I was always like so many steps ahead of everyone. And I think that's where I find the sort of blessing in it, but it can be quite jarring because, and I'll give you a real life example that I have. So one of the times that I was very impulsive and sort of like done the thing before actually even putting the plan on paper was I quit my job to commit full time to my business before I was even making like money in my business, because I was so determined that this was going to work out for me. I was determined that I was going to make a name of myself. Like I already knew what the next 5 years was going to look like, but I hadn't actually I had no clients, I had no money coming in, I had no business to be going full time in my business. But all I could think about was the plan. That's all I could think about. So when I had a very safe job, right? A very good income coming in. You know, I worked with child and youth. I worked with the YMCA actually, and I loved my job. And one day, it was August 27th was the day, and I'm standing and I was like washing dishes, or I was doing some kind of like whatever, and I was like, I'm done. I'm done. And I remember like nobody could have ever like talked me out of it at all. And I handed in my resignation and I left, and everyone was like, what the fuck? Like, where's she going? And I was out the door. And in those first few weeks were like, I was like, this is amazing. And I was like, I got clients and I had money coming in. And then I was like, there was a lull, right? And there was that sort of lull that happened. And I guess what I'm trying to say with this is, as impulsive as I can be and as spontaneous as I can be, and as much as I have so much faith in myself that I'm able to actually take that action, I am so swayed by other people's opinions though. Yeah. So I think the reason I do take the action as quickly as I do, because if I don't, someone will talk me out of it. Mm-hmm. Even if deep down I know that it's the right thing to do, because it still is. Here I am, right? Yeah. You know, we're swimming along, totally. we're doing our thing. But for someone to give me their opinion, even if like I didn't agree with it, it sways me. And I think that it sways me because we live in a world that is so dictated by neurotypical people, right? This is how a normal person acts. This is how a normal person plans their life, right? That's really weird and strange what you did. I don't agree with it. And I think that you shouldn't have done it. But because I grew up with that, like I have to mold myself to fit into society. It honestly takes like one opinion from someone, even if I fully believe in what I'm doing, and it sways me immediately. Yeah, it's trying to shove a square in a round hole. It just doesn't go. That's how I felt too. I do have to say, just to reinforce something here, as I've got this visual of you just like spread her over the shoulder, kick the door open, YMCA, I'm out of here, bitches. That is pretty much what I done. Like my last week, I was a flaming mess. I was like, fuck this and fuck you, and I don't want to fucking be here. But people envied you in that moment. You'd know that, right? There are people that they fit in the square hole because they have molded to that societal expectation of what we're supposed to be doing. And right now, actually, I'm doing a bunch of research on really talent management in the workplace, and they're calling it the Great Era of Resignation, meaning that, what was the Canadian statistic was 133,000 people quit their jobs, I think, since this pandemic. Yeah. And we don't have a lot of people in Canada. In the States, there's 12 million open jobs right now, and 40% of those that are employed are looking for other employment. I don't want to go too far in that end, but what that means is that the expectations from this capitalist society has let people down where it counts. And what I'm talking about is emotionally. Yes. People for the first time have seen that, okay, a health conflict came into play. Think of your work like a triangle, right? A health conflict comes up here and disturbs health and safety, which is a top need in Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Yep. Number one is safety and security, I believe. Yes. So you've disrupted the bottom of the foundation of what staff need. Mm-hmm. And so people go, okay, well, this is actually about money now. The business was never really about me. And they've had this awakening. And so now it's like, holy shit, what's job security? Yeah. Jobs don't last
a lifetime anymore. My dad's been employed at the same place for 41 years. I had 16 jobs by the time I was 23.
Yeah.
I was trying everything.
Yeah, I was the same.
Fuck this up. I'll fuck this up. I don't like any of you. You all suck.
Yeah, I was a band manager for like 5 years. Like,
really?
Yeah, like for the Glasgow music scene. Like I just like, my dad's a musician, so I was like,
oh nice,
I'll try this, and I done like promotion and management. The best time. It was like the best thing ever. I'm like, it's not what I want to do when I grow up, but yeah, like it's very different jobs.
I almost think of it like I was a helium balloon. When my daughter was born, it was like someone took a little stake, hit it in the ground, and tied me to it.
Yeah, she kind of.
I don't need to say that she held me back. I mean, that was what was needed as a catalyst for my growth.
Yeah, I was going to say she grounded you. It sounds like, and I kind of picked that up whenever you were talking about her the last time, right? Like it sounds like when she came along, she just totally grounded you. But I think that
time to grow up.
It's not like, it's not a prison sentence or whatever. Like you're being grounded in a very sort of different kind of way, right? You're able to use your skills in a different way, and I think that's a beautiful thing, right? I think we all need grounding.
It almost comes back to a segue to really medications and answers to this whole problem, but that's not something I've ever been a fan of. She gave me the strength to hold tight, cry through some things when required. I think the heavy head comes with heavy emotions.
100%, yeah.
And I think that's sort of the challenge, right? You talked about a lull that you experienced and it slowed you down. I've faced that many times in the last 10 months of business coaching too, where it's ups and downs every week.
Yeah.
And I went from a period of my life where I was so stable, working with the same business on and off, even as a contractor, and with working with my wife, we really maintained a lot of work with the same company, a little family that allowed me to grow within them. And that's one of the things that kind of fed into the stability of my life, was I found the right little niche company that would allow me to be an entrepreneur with them. So why that's important? Okay, well, capital punishment is solitary confinement. You're in a cell alone, no daylight, no windows, and you're going to stay there for hours to days to weeks to months in times if you're bad. That's the worst thing you can do to a human. Now put someone with neurodivergence in there who needs things faster and more often than the average person, right? And that's sort of what the entrepreneur thing feels like sometimes. So growing within this family, I was under a wing. I got significance from that. So it allowed me to grow and continue to be rewarded in my growth. So it became very significant to my life and my direction, just like my daughter did. And so I just wanted to circle back here and point out that when you're talking about that lull, it seems to me that one of the solutions, one of the things to be aware of, again, circling with the who, not how, is that if we know the extent of our dream, that momentum will only take us a few weeks, then priority one almost becomes who can I get with me? Who can join me? Who can I join in their venture? Who will be my accountability partner?
Yeah.
And it's why I need coaching. To this day, I pay thousands for coaching every year. Yeah. That was my spiel.
Oh, I love that. No, I love that. I think that I often underestimate how much I need that sort of accountability, but I think it's because I'm so aware of how influenced by other people I can be. And that, like, for me, that's something I'm still really working on, like trying to work through. I've kind of gotten to a place where I'm so, certain and confident about myself, neurodivergency intact, because I feel like it has been such a gift for me. Even during the times where I was like, oh my God, like this is the worst thing that happened. I just want to be normal. I just want to be like everyone else, but I don't want to be like anyone else. But every once in a while, I need someone to be like, Kaylin, reel it back. Like you're already in 2035. It's only 2021, I think. Is it?
Back it up. It's 2021 still,
okay. So I'm so, and I like you and I had kind of touched on this actually before we spoke, but it's that idea of being present, right? And that's something I deeply struggle with, is being present. No, I am someone that meditates a lot. That's one of the reasons I do meditate, is to sort of get out of my head, be a bit more present. But to practice that in the moment can be really difficult. And I think that being someone who's neurodivergent, we have entrepreneurial type assets, right? And that's why we're so good in that sort of like entrepreneurial role capacity, right? We're really good at it because we're like quick on our feet, lightning speed mind, like very creative. We can problem solve. Like my ability to be calm in a crisis like still astounds me to this day. But you ask me what I want for dinner and I will crumble.
Yeah, same thing. Yeah, I'll walk down the street with my wife and we'll try to pick something on a vacation, and it turns into an angry argument for some reason.
Yes,
because you're both hungry before you decide. It's just like choose. Like, I can't decide.
You know, the other day
and a sandwich.
The other day, we had my father-in-law was here, and I asked if he wanted some lunch, and he said yes, and I went, oh no, I have to figure out what to make him. So I said, what can I make you for lunch? And he said, whatever. That's the worst thing. As someone with ADHD, that is the worst thing you can say to me, is whatever. Because now, instead of me going, well, what does he like? You know, what kind of stuff is he like? Now I go, what if he's actually secretly wanting something and I make him something wrong? Or what if I give him what I want, he doesn't like it? Or what if I really ruin what he's, and my head goes kind of everywhere. So my husband had to come into the kitchen and like help. And we ended up having an argument. He's like, why can't you figure this out? But if my father-in-law, let me tell you, had fallen and broken his leg, I would be all over that. Like in an emergency situation, I am so much better. Control. It's like I have so much control, because whenever a situation is like of a state of crisis or emergency, all of a sudden the environment matches my brain. Because that's what my brain is like.
That's nice. I
all
like that.
The time. My brain works. It's you describe it perfectly. A busy brain, right? My brain is.
I don't know. You just described it perfectly. I think that resonates. That frequency matches. Now. I've never caught that.
Another example, just while I'm on this tangent, and I'm not even going to apologize for being on this tangent, but having a busy brain in that sort of chaotic energy, kind of matching it. Whenever the pandemic hit, right? Whenever the pandemic hit, everyone started panicking, and it was like, this has never happened before. Everything's shutting down, and nobody really knew what to do. And my husband said to me, "You're really calm right now." And it was because all of a sudden, what was happening outside of me was matching what was happening up here. So it was like, and
welcome to my world, bitches.
Right? And I remember there's actually a podcast. Her name is Glennon Doyle. She's amazing. She's an author, writer, activist. She's amazing. But she actually highlights this in her podcast as well. And I remember listening to it, and I was like, yeah. And it's just because it is like, welcome to my world, right? That's what my brain is like all the time. Yeah. And I'm not saying that for anyone to be like, oh, fuck you, Kaylin. But I was so calm. Like I'm not saying that it didn't affect me, but when everything shut down and like the sort of chaos that ensued, I was like, this is my time to shine. Like I was able to actually be like a source of strength for a lot of people, because I was like, this is my reality every single day, right? Something like being like, what do you want for lunch? Kills me. But something like a global pandemic, I'm fine.
Yeah.
I'm fine. Totally. I'm the most stable I've ever been.
I appreciate that. I also had many times where I thought I was sick and I wasn't, because it just added up over the year. And it was just like, okay, to the point where my wife's like, you're fine, which makes it worse, of course. Now I am sick.
No,
sick
I know that. Like, no, I'm not.
But yeah, no, you know what? Like, I'll take it. I had this revelation. I'll take this really far back. Let's go back to being cavemen and women.
Okay.
I think I hypothesize that people like us were the leaders. And we see that even in capitalism today. Richard Branson, Sir Branson, can't read. He's never read a full book. He's dyslexic. Yeah. He's got a busy brain like us. So he's never accepted failure for long. But one of the key ingredients to success, to realizing your dreams, which is how we're defining success here right now in the context of my little speech, is that first you have a dream, and then you have a realization that is some, semblance of that dream. Most people don't have the stickiness to get through that, or that first action, like we talked about, to get to it. But when you fail fast, like we tend to do, it hurts a lot.
Guilty.
It's an emotional roller coaster, but people who fail fast go far.
Yes,
and that's really the moral of the story. But going back to cavemen, cavewomen, back in the day, Bob gets eaten by a tiger, saber-tooth, right? We're in a village. I would have been someone like, we can't do that again. We need to fix this. Busy brain over here says, we're moving the tribe. Get your shit together, people. We're packing up the hay tents. We're going to that cave.
We can't fucking fight the tigers. We have to.
Many people may have had those thoughts, but it took people like us to actually make a difference. I think there was a lot, I don't think this is new. And I think what's new is that there's more distractions than ever.
Mm-hmm.
The average person is distracted every 40 seconds, and it takes something like, on average, 28 minutes to get back on track.
Yes.
So if you've got a busy mind like us, that's never. I'm getting distracted in my sleep by advertisements that I saw at 9 a.m. that night later, right? Like, I'm still hitting those. Like, maybe I should buy a new iPhone 13.
I'm getting distracted by conversations I had like 3 weeks ago that I'm going, what? I can't believe he would say that, and everyone's over it. So yeah.
So yeah, fail fast. That's, my first business, I started at 19. That was somewhere between having 16 different jobs. And I had that up to seven people working for me.
That's amazing.
And it ended up, I didn't go bankrupt. I ended up having to do, what do they call it? Debt consolidation.
Oh, okay.
But I sat with a bankruptcy advisor, and I sat there and listened to him be like, okay, well, they'll write this off, but all the money you owe to the government, they're going to keep chasing you. And for 21 months, you won't be allowed to make more than $2,000 a month. And it's like, how am I going to support my kid and all this stuff? And just disaster. I didn't sleep for like 4 years.
So I'm sorry. Sorry for laughing at that.
It's okay. Like, it's hard times, but this is what we're talking about. Failing fast. That happens. Yeah. That single event, my failure, the first time I cried at the bank, which is usually how I start that story, because my guys didn't know I was done and I was behind on payroll. So I finally got a draw for this big project I had no business getting. Yeah. And they had no business giving me, by the way. I'm 19. Like, I know nothing. But I could do some concrete, and I'm going to do, this was a 3-level Olympic size skating oval, twin hockey rinks, and running track suspended on the 3rd floor. Mm-hmm. So we're talking like a big operation, $500,000 contract. I had no idea. My contract was only $95,000. So if you can see the difference of $400K, the guy who hired me to do it with my crew still had $500,000 to play with when I was done there.
Yeah.
Anyway, I didn't get far. We made it 6 months into that job, and it was very, very evident that the money was not enough to do the job. And so I take my guys to the bank, the patient bastards, with checks after a month of not being paid. And one by one, I watched them cash their checks. And then had the longest few moments of my life where the bank teller interrupted my little gaze off to the wall, and I was crying. Yeah. And she's like, what's going on with you? Come here. Like, what do you need? So, well, those are all my guys. They cash their checks and what's left in the account. And she said a number I'll never forget, 6336 and 38 cents. So $6,336.38. And I said, okay, well, I need to make a withdrawal. I need all of that. And I pulled it out in cash, and she was just puzzled. Like, do I call my manager? Like, are you allowed to rob yourself? Is this a crime? Like, do I report this?
Are you allowed to rob yourself? I think you are. I don't know. Actually, I'm not sure.
They were chasing me for years. It was a disaster.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's failing fast, but it changed my life.
Yes.
And I couldn't be where I am with the passion I have for business, helping businesses avoid that same cycle of like hitting bottom, having no idea what you're doing. So I get to help people with that every day. And I love that. But going back to what you said, you know, the little dips are, I hate looking for people to convince, I shouldn't say convince. I hate finding people that will admit they're facing those problems. It's tragic. Every time I call a business owner and I just know, I could see their website, I could see what we could upgrade. I could easily double their clients, double their profits. I just know it because you get used to these signs. You can see it.
Yeah.
And I get them on the phone and it's like, man, I just want to fire hose this person and be like, I want to double your profits and give you more clients and make sure you never hit the bottom like me. That's what my brain is screaming that, like, tell them, you know, you got to tell them.
Don't leave anything out.
The irony is that when you tell them that, they're like, I got to go.
They're like, oh my God. Yeah.
Because you got to move the heart before the mind.
Yes. And
my whole thing is about moving the mind. Oh man.
I hear you. I feel very much the same whenever I'm on like a call with someone who maybe is interested in me being their coach and just kind of, I mean, because everyone responds so differently, right? So I don't want to be like, I'll help you accept everything about yourself and be okay with it. We'll make peace and we're going to turn all of those negative beliefs into more empowering ones, I swear. It can be really hard. So like I sit during most calls, like pinching myself, like, don't say too much, ask questions, don't fire hose these people.
Yeah.
Give them a chance. Yeah.
It's a real challenge. And I think, you know, even when I haven't been on my own, where I'm working with other big companies, projects and stuff, it's like, I just accept that most people don't understand. It's taken 35 years of trial and error to get that. But I just accept that I'm not everyone's cup of tea now. Yeah. And I think you said actually in one of our calls where it was like, you know, I just appreciate the people that are willing to go deep with me because that's what it is. It's a deep line every time. I can't help that. Yeah. But that's how affectionate and how drawn I am to helping, and sharing and committing to problem solving and some of the other things you mentioned there.
Yes. I've never been a surface level person. And again, I think that just comes with the nature of being like neurodivergent. Like you see things with such a different perspective. You see everything. Like for me, I see like the subtle changes in someone's like mood based on how they breathe, right? Like, and that is such a beautiful thing, but it can also be really exhausting because now if I'm in a restaurant and someone 4 tables away has changed the way that they're sitting, that's all I can think about. I'm like, that person's upset or like something's that's all I can think about. But it's like,
maybe they're neurodivergent. I could help them. I should go over there and talk to them.
Hey,
what are you feeling right now?
One of us.
But what are you thinking about?
But it's kind of learning to channel that, right? And use it for like use it in a way that doesn't totally exhaust me. But it's like we just see things in such a beautiful, vast, different way. So surface level relationships for me, they don't make the cut. And I know that sounds like brutal, like that sounds really harsh, but for me they really don't, because like I honestly want to know what people's passions are, because I want to know how I can get you to that place where like you just embody that. Like I love that, right? I wear that on my sleeve, and for the longest time I felt like I had to really contain it. But whenever I contain it, it goes the opposite direction, and I start just like making it about me, and it's like I'm not a good person, and it becomes like a whole inner dialogue that I don't want to have. But
stuck in a loop.
Yeah, and I get it. I'm not everyone's cup of tea because I'm a really intense person to be around sometimes. But I've had to learn to be okay with that.
Yeah.
And being okay with people not being okay with that. And I think
that's hard.
Yeah, like but I think that's the kind of thing that really propels me in this specific niche where I do, I am a coach and a hypnotherapist. For anyone that doesn't know, anyone's watching, I kind of have to go deep, right? But that's so hard for me to shut that off in my everyday life. So like for me, I feel like I embody a coach at all times.
Yeah.
And it's like, I wish there was a switch, but then I'm like, do I wish there was a switch? So it's one of those, I'm trying to balance that. It's a beautiful blessing, it really is, but it's also a bit of a curse whenever, again, I'm so swayed by other people's opinions too.
Totally. And as you say that, I think about a couple of things. One is like, I'll share with you, my dream truly, every great vision that I have is things that I could teach a group of people from stage, right? Like, I just love the idea of helping a lot of people. I just love that. But the complex there is that this condition has made me somewhat afraid of judgment. And so my dream is the same thing that I fear. I fear,
yes,
right? Like, I know that one of the best ways to fire hose people is in a group setting together, because if a couple people understand, if you can connect with a few, everyone else will be more likely to join. And that's sometimes what it takes for surface level people, is to just be around some deeper individuals. And so in those group settings, like, I know that that is the one thing that would make me more successful as a business coach, is to relieve performance anxiety, the fear of rejection, the fear of saying the wrong thing, messing up, which makes no sense, because there's so much value. And anyone that knows me on a deep level knows that that's true. We have these conversations and they're like, yeah, if there was 100 people beside me, I think they would agree that there's some good information. Yet, even me, and I think one of the other coaches said it the other day, even when you don't think that's true, it is. It's such a big problem. It's a big part of the picture, that performance anxiety. How do you get over that?
Yeah.
Oh, man. So I kind of wonder, do you have the same thing? The performance anxiety, does that appeal to you?
Oh yeah. And here's where I can relate to what you said. A dream of mine, honestly, like, and I've been saying this for years, like, I would love to do a TED Talk, right? I'd love to stand on the TED Talk stage and just be like, bah, right? And knowing me, if I don't prepare it, it would literally just be like, and it'd just be kind of all over the place. So my performance anxiety comes from the fact that I know how, when I'm not prepared, I tend to go off on a tangent, and that's when I lose people. So I almost, like, I'm anxious about my lack of faith in my ability to prepare myself for having those bigger conversations in front of, like, a crowd of people. But then also I have mad imposter syndrome, like super, like, sometimes I am so crippled by it. And I think because when I started university, my intention was to get my PhD, right? I wanted to get my PhD in psychology. I wanted to be a doctor of psychology. But when I say that I struggled in school, like, I didn't pass my degree. Like, I had to retake my exam and then beg for credits. Like, I barely scraped by, like, a kind of standard degree, because I struggled so hard. But my dream was bigger than my ability to actually perform it, right? Like, so I didn't like thoroughly prepare myself for what maybe going on to do a PhD might entail. So I totally bombed it in school. So I think my imposter syndrome and performance anxiety, kind of hand in hand, comes from the fact that I told everyone that I was going to be a doctor. I told every single person, right? So for me, working in the field that I'm in now, I'm a coach, I'm a hypnotherapist. Those are amazing things, amazing accomplishments. I'm so happy. I'm a consultant, right? But every once in a while, when I come up against talking about something like this, a little voice in my head goes, but you're not a doctor. And I feel like, because that, I have no right to speak about this, even though I have personal experience in the things that I'm talking about. So there's just that imposter syndrome there. Like, the biggest fear of people going, like, my fear is people asking me to back something up with some kind of evidence, because even if I have it, my brain just goes blank. Like, do you have evidence to suggest that? Somewhere. And I lose myself. Like, and I totally go out of my body. And it's a horrible experience. And I try my best. And I know that I'm really good at engaging people and talking to groups and having these kind of conversations. But that moment before it is always worse for me than actually being in the situation. But
totally.
It's enough to
Can I ask something?
Me. Yes.
Do you think there's such thing as an undiagnosed, or should I say an undrugged, to be fair, someone who's not actually taking a prescription for ADHD who is a doctor?
Is there such a thing as a doctor who isn't taking drugs?
Yeah. Sorry if that came out weird, but
No,
I'm
it's
just
okay.
thinking like I couldn't do a doctorate myself as an
Yeah.
undiagnosed ADHD candidate who I just know has a busy brain. I'm trying to do a master's of business, and that is freaking hard enough. Like I'm dying. In fact, speaking still to this same subject, because it hits home, I wrote a 2,500 word paper. I submitted it. And then the teacher said, well, that's great. It's a nice paper, but you didn't answer the question. Like this
Ouch.
is real.
Yes, I
What I'm
did.
getting at, if it gives you any credit, I don't think there's a doctor out there who didn't have at least some help overcoming this to become a doctor.
And I totally, when you sort of say it like that, I agree. I think that for the longest time I was misdiagnosed, right? It was like I have anxiety, I have depression. There was a time where my psychiatrist was like, do you have PTSD maybe? Like, so it was like I felt like every 2 years I would go to see my therapist and they'd be like, do you maybe have OCD? I think it's trauma. So nobody knew, like no one really had an answer. So I always felt like this like anomaly of a person because I didn't have a proper diagnosis. I didn't have proper accommodation for it. I didn't have proper medication for it. Yeah. Like I wasn't being medicated properly. I didn't have the right therapies for it. So I just like totally floundered and I was like, what the heck? And that expression, is it just me? But like, what the hell's wrong with me? Like, why isn't it working? And I know that if it had been like, maybe the nail had been hit a little bit more kind of whilst I was going through school and I was more accommodated for it, then sure. So it made no sense for an undiagnosed at that time person with ADHD who had that was in therapy for maybe PTSD and maybe anxiety and maybe depression and medicated for this, that, and the next thing. Yeah. It made no sense for me to have achieved that. And I don't mean that in a sort of like, not that I'm capable of it at some point, but there was no way. It was like I was in a lose-lose situation. I really was. But I think that I don't give that enough credit. And I'm too busy thinking about everyone I've ever known. I was like, I'm going to be a doctor.
Yeah, totally. And I get that. I do also have to say, like, full transparency, I had the same issues.
Yeah.
And not spitting image, but I mean, I was also diagnosed with anxiety. I was also diagnosed with depression. And none of those really made sense to me ever. I never took the drugs. Yeah. I got the scripts and then I crumpled them up and threw them over my shoulder on the way out, because at the end of the day, I don't want to be stuck in this drug loop. That's been important to me. I'm kind of more from the natural side. And so, like I said, where you focus is where you go. That's been my mission. That's been my experience. But I recognize that the system's broken in some ways, right? Everyone goes, oh, you're in Canada, you get free healthcare. We get 10 minutes, one problem, and we don't pay the bill. Who pays the bill? The government, who collects the money. So who makes the rules on those appointments? The government, who collects the money, who also subsidize pharmaceuticals.
Yeah.
I'm not saying the thing's crooked, but I am saying that anytime someone else pays the bills for you, they get the attention, not you as the client, patient.
Yeah,
the relationship has a flaw.
You don't want to say it's crooked, but I would love to just say that it's a flaming dumpster fire. Like,
okay, fair enough.
So, like, you were being very like polite and tactful, but it is
politically correct.
Because in one thing I've noticed, especially in the developmental world, right, like the neurodivergent world, the criteria for people to meet that ADHD or ASD or dyslexia or whatever, like the criteria for that is so impossible. Like it's too specific, right? So there's a lot of people that are floating around here undiagnosed because they maybe don't meet the certain percentile of like intellectual delays or social delays or whatever, because we've grew in a society that has made masking so normal, right? So like I'm able to mask my way through a social situation, but because of that, now it interferes with my ability to actually get support. Like if like that for me is such a huge problem. Like, so it's not us as neurodivergent, it's the issue. It's the system that has been created for us by people that are not us. Like that really bothers me. And
to go a step further, I didn't mean to interrupt. Sorry, I thought there was a pause there.
Go.
I was just going to say that we're also now in the information age. And what do
Yes.
doctors hate most? They hate when you come prepared and have done your own
They hate it.
self-assessment.
Yeah.
They hate troubleshooting.
Yeah.
Now, I'm a tradesperson. I'm an electrician by trade. So troubleshooting is something I've learned to do. And with a busy brain, I think it's inherent that we troubleshoot ourselves. And in a system that only gives you 10 minutes, one problem, you need to troubleshoot, yet the professionals hate it when you do that.
Yeah.
It's a real conflict.
It really is. And there's not enough professionals that are like us. I don't think, like, there's not enough people that are able to be like, yeah, like, and I like having their own experience, which is why I love what I do so much, because I work with people who are like me and they work with people that are like them, right? Like, we understand each other. And I think that's such a beautiful thing. But one thing that comes to mind was not in Canada, but in Scotland, it's a very similar thing. But I had a 15-minute session with a therapist who in the time was just kind of like, you seem really distracted. And I was like, I am distracted because the clock behind me is so loud, I can't hear you speak. And he prescribed me sleeping pills. He was like,
interesting diagnosis there, doc.
He's like, are you always this distracted? And I was like, well, not when it's like the clock isn't this loud. And I kind of went off on a bit of a tangent. And he's like, and the next thing I know, I'm at the apartment I lived in at that time in Glasgow, and I'm holding this prescription for like horse tranquilizer, sleep medication, and like a sick line from work. And I was like, that's not why I went there. What happened? I like, and I feel like that's not why I went there. It's like the story of my life, because I always have the best intentions, but then I go like here and there and everywhere and blah 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 all over the place. But when someone who actually is neurodivergent or someone that has experienced any kind of mental health issues, they're able to pick that out. So now the therapist that I have, whenever she said to me, Caitlin, like, I think we should revisit the proper ADHD assessment diagnosis, like, in because she herself has a neurodivergent child, she herself has anxiety, so like she was able to kind of notice that, and that made such a huge difference for me. It really made such a huge difference having someone that was like, just I actually feel where you are on like such a profound level.
Yeah, totally. And it comes back to that, the blessing and the curse.
Yeah.
I mean, the way I see it is we're all on a pendulum, right? Without suffering, there's no compassion, but it's at a frequency, and that frequency is high. And again, as an electrician, a frequency is really the number of times you're cycling and how fast those cycles are happening. For us, that's frequent. It's a lot, it's high. So I'm trying to clip my lows and control that frequency without losing my highs.
Yeah.
And it's just, there's not really, that I'm aware of, a drug or prescription that will do that for you. Everything takes from the top and the bottom, and it shortens your strokes. So that's been my kind of beef with anxiety and depression meds, and my personal stance has been against that for that reason. I don't want to be left numb in the middle and have, just time passed. That's not what I'm trying to do, because people appreciate my highs. My dad told me last night, and he says it regularly, wholeheartedly, he's my number one fan, because he's not like me.
I love that.
He's just not. He's the opposite.
Yeah.
He's not a man of action.
Yeah.
More of like, slow it down. Let's just, 41 years, same job.
Yeah.
Couldn't do it.
Yeah.
I can't do that with my own company. In 41 years, I'll go from being on my own to having, 5,000 people working for me and changing the world. Like, being stagnant, I wouldn't get in business if it was just this.
Yes.
For 41 years.
Yes. As much as I'm also like, oh, it's not going to be like this for 41 years, but I'm also like, yes, it's not going to be like this for 41 years. Yeah.
So I got to finish up by saying, I appreciate what you're doing online, and I appreciate that organic connection.
Yeah.
And for me to go see a PhD of any sort, they're not online reaching out, being personable.
Yeah.
There's not a channel for me to go besides their website. And if there is a website, where's the personal video?
Yeah.
Where's the point where I get to connect with this person before I make this embarrassing phone call and ask for help from a professional that knows nothing about me or my situation, who's going to diagnose me in 10 minutes to change my life? It doesn't even make sense. So, full circle, now that I've a bit of passion behind this, if I'm you and someone asks me, well, you're not a doctor. Yeah, they all let me down. Thanks. Anything else
I
you've
love
noticed while I'm
that.
here?
Yeah, good one. They all let me down. So one thing
Yeah.
I do want to say before we sort of wrap up the conversation though is I honestly, I fully believe that there is a place for medication, right? I do think that there is a place for it, right?
Yeah.
Because I think that my experience, there are some people that really do need the baseline lowered significantly. And I fully respect and appreciate that. At one point, I was that person. I needed my brain to shut up, even if it was just for like a moment. So I think that there is a place for it, but I am not by any means like someone that advocates like actively seeking out pills without any other kind of supports. Right. I think that the sort of medication can only do so much, right? Because when you've lowered that baseline and you're able to think, see clearly, you still need the strategies in place to understand those times where maybe you're just having an off day, or maybe like you're noticing that your mind isn't as quiet that day. And I think that's why I love that sort of holistic approach. That's why I love doing hypnotherapy, hypnosis, coaching. That's why I love like talking people through it. Because it's all good having the medication, but like I feel like medication should be something that people have for the rest of their lives, right? Like if they can sort of come at it from a different perspective, right?
Yeah.
Just like I don't think they should have me working with them for the rest of their lives either. I think it kind of goes the same way. So I just wanted to say medication does have its place 1000%. And I have so much respect for people that take medication, being someone myself and friends that I've known, full respect for it. But my issue is just that, like you said, that 15-minute conversation and then just like, here you go. That is just mind blowing for me.
Totally. I feel compelled to leave a disclaimer here. Sorry, I was passionate and just speaking through my lens, of course, right? Which is not judging or judgmental of any medications either.
Yeah.
It was really more about, I hate to clip my highs. And I'm just scared of that. I'm scared of losing what makes me special.
Yeah.
At the same time as realizing that what makes me special totally alienates a bunch of other people. It's a challenge. So can you tell me just quick, I've never done hypnotherapy. I've heard that can help for performance anxiety and some of these issues and some of your coaching. Could you tell me a bit about how that might help?
So the kind of hypnotherapy that I do is I do this technique called switching, right? So if you're someone that wants to be, more confident in a performance setting, I want to kind of focus on the emotion behind what it means for you to do that successfully, right? So if you came to me and you're like, in order for me to present, I'd be proud of myself, I'd feel confident, I'd feel very empowered. And I want to bring you back to a time in which you felt those things and use that as your bridge, right? So we're using your very, very personal experience. And this is a very sort of brief explanation. I can go into more detail about it like at another time, but it's using your own experience to sort of allow your brain to understand that you've done this before. Like you've experienced confidence and pride and empowerment before. You've done it before and you will do it again. So that's kind of what we do. We kind of switch between the fear of that moment of being on stage and that time where you felt that you could do just anything. And we kind of bring that together, so that whenever you see the stage, you now associate it with that time that you accomplished something at some point in your life. So that's the kind of hypnotherapy that I do. And then we kind of get you to that place where we've made that association and now I coach you through getting to it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I like that.
Yeah.
I got to say, because I think a lot of the fears that I experience, especially with performance anxiety, are actually of things that have never happened.
Yes. And that's one thing that a lot of people experience. Which is why I'm like, when was the last time you actually did it though, right? Let's stop focusing on like the world ending if you were to stand on stage, and let's focus on the fact that you've actually did this before in a different capacity.
Totally. Yeah. My counselor said something pretty profound. I took it. I had never heard it before. You probably have in your circles, but he just said, listen, think of depression like being stuck in something that did happen.
Yeah.
Anxiety is being stuck in something that hasn't happened.
Yeah. Yep. It's so true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway. Okay, well, we should wrap this up.
Yeah.
That was a great chat. I really
honestly,
appreciate being a part of that. And
it was so much fun to talk with you. Like, thank you for being vulnerable with me today and just like sharing your experience. Like, I always super appreciate, like I say, connecting with other like-minded individuals in business and also in neurodivergency. So thank you for that. I really do appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me.
Of course.
Okay.